forgot my testimony today. But from what I can remember of it, my recommendations for this court go as the following. I recommend that from this point on, you need to certify mail all of your divorces when they're finalized. Me and my ex-husband went 1.5 years before we found out that our divorce was finalized. Nobody told us. We never even got mail notices. You need to end these hearings from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to a couple of hours here and there and just get it over with. It's very traumatic being dragged into court for 15-minute intervals once a month because of motions and ex partes and being beaten up all the time by the other party and by the judge allowing it to happen. It needs to stop. Evidence needs to be declared evidence no matter what. On several accounts, on the Rockingham County that I was dealing with, my ex-husband was allowed to submit several documentations that I never got to review, never saw, but the judge was allowed to see it and use it against me as testimony without me even saying if it was false or true. After the fact, I found out 90% of it was false. It was still accusations made against me to use in court with the judge already predetermining the outcome because the clerk was deciding what was seen and not seen. Your Honor, that's on record. I confronted my judge about that. That's on record at Rockingham. Okay. I feel you need to listen to the children better. The GAL that I had left because my former husband refused to pay her, so she walked away from the case. She also didn't tell the truth about everything that was said, and complaints from that point on were sent into the court, and they were also sent into the Judicial Committee, who ignored it. My people then came back and testified in court since the GAL had misrepresented what was to be said. It still didn't make a difference. The family court system, I felt like this whole process, I'm nothing more than a guppy in a corporate fishbowl. It's destroyed me physically, mentally, and emotionally. I've lost everything because of it. And I'm still losing everything because of it. I'm a good person, I'm a nurse. I raised both my sons my whole life. And then in one moment, because of something my ex-husband did, came right in from underneath me and took it all away. Took it all away. And I'm actually on YouTube with court hearings that I've been taping. So you can see all that there, where we'll prove this.
Hi, my name is Sam. When I was 10 years old, I saw that my mom tried to help Jim out by giving a loan to him to buy a house that was close to my mom's so that me and my brother could see him more. At the beginning of all this, I did want to see Jim, but now I don't want to. I don't remember him ever living with us. My mom bought me a puppy to try to calm me down. I still had dreams that people would break into my house and try to steal him. Both me and my mom would cry at night because we could have been homeless and I couldn't see my brother. The judge and the GAO would not listen to me. The judge had to hear me say that I was going to kill my dad if I had to live with him. And then I was told I to stay with my mom. He shut off my phone and stopped talking to me when I told him I didn't want to live with him. He took $3,000 from my bank account. He was trying to get me to live with him by saying my mom is an unfit parent and had anger issues. I wanted to change my last name, but my mom is too afraid to go into the court and had the court say no. I don't really see my brother because Jim says no to hanging out. I think families with these issues should have a set day in the week that kids get to see each other. If the children wants to speak to the judge should hear what they have to say. If the kids don't want to talk to everyone, the judge should have the children talk in private with the judges about their testimony. What I have been through has affected my life because I can't move down south to try to get my pro license in motocross. Is there any questions that anyone wants to ask me?
Sam, who is Jim?
My dad.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you have any contact with your brother at all?
Occasionally.
Occasionally. Is that something that you do on your own?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not something that's court order that says that you're allowed to either email him or have a conversation or talk with him on the phone. It's just something you do on your own.
I can talk to him whenever I want. It's just usually when I ask to hang out, my dad says no. Any other questions?
Sam, are you going to leave your written, are you going to leave what you wrote for us to keep here?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for taking time out of your personal life to listen to all the stories that have been shared and what we shared. Thank you.
My name's Paul Dion. I'm from Gilmanton. I'm here as a veterans advocate. The issue that the veterans are having in New Hampshire is federal law specifically states that VA disability is exempt from attachment, levy, or garnishment. It's 38 U.S.C. 5301. Judges are ignoring that. What they are doing is they're treating VA disability the same as veterans retirement, which falls under 10 U.S.C. 1408. 10 U.S.C. 1408 allows the court to award the former spouse 50% of the veteran's retirement pay. If there's a child involved, it can go up to 65%. Okay? 5301 exempts all of it. That money is given to the veteran solely for him or her to survive on. There are many cases in New Hampshire where the veterans are having the money taken away from them and given to the former spouses. One of the issues is New Hampshire does not have state laws that protect the VA disability. Many other states do. As a matter of fact, if I remember right, there's 30-something states that do. But the other states that don't follow the federal law. In New Hampshire, the judges are totally ignoring the federal law. They're saying if there's no state law, we don't have to follow it. Okay? What I feel we need to do is come up with laws that reiterate to the judge what federal law says and protects the veterans. There are veterans being left homeless because of losing their property and it being given to their former spouses. 5301 allows the former spouse to go directly to the VA and get a portion of the veteran's money. But the Secretary of the VA, by law, is the only one that can attach the money.
Can I just ask, are you referring specifically to alimony orders or child support orders or both?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. If, like I said, if there is no retirement, the judge...
No, I'm sorry. I meant when you said the courts are ordering it, you were saying the courts are ordering both child support and alimony from the exempt income.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. What they're doing is they're lumping the money in together, and they're considering the disability as being income, where by law it's not. It's exempt from it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a lifelong resident of the state of New Hampshire. The obvious problem with our family court system here in New Hampshire is that it is a system that promotes conflict and does not bring resolution. I've been married and divorced twice in New Hampshire. The first marriage lasted 12 years, and it has been in litigation for 19 and still ongoing. I was married the second time for 5 years. That's been in litigation for 4 and is still ongoing. I'm here to report to you that as of February of this year, we had at least 2 family court justices in the state of New Hampshire openly engaged in public corruption in the administration of their duties. One is now retired. I stress openly corrupt because there is no accountability. There's no civil or criminal penalties for justices who break the law of the state of New Hampshire, no consequences for violating their own court rules or their own ethical canons. The oversight that we have in this state over circuit court judges who abuse their power or who may be openly corrupt, as in the case of my 2 cases, is completely ineffective. There's no redress as our state constitution directs. There is no true appellate court where grievance can be taken. We have only a disinterested Supreme Court who nearly always supports the circuit court decisions. We have an Attorney General who will not even investigate allegations of judicial corruption. Lastly, we also have a Judicial Conduct Committee who not only operates at a painfully slow pace, but whose only objective seems to be to whitewash incidents of judicial corruption. For example, in 2 recent Judicial Corruption Committee investigations involving the Third Circuit Court judge, it was discovered that this judge was not only consistently denying due process to litigants who appeared before her by failing to schedule hearings, but she was introducing her own research into evidence in those cases. This discovery produced the mildest of responses from the JCC. Let me ask everyone in this room, would you open a business in a state that wouldn't enforce their written contracts, doesn't support their own civil laws? Of course you wouldn't. It's a huge business risk. If we don't fix the openly corrupt judiciary in New Hampshire, you're going to have more than a few dozen angry litigants. You're going to ruin the state's economy. Before we pass any laws on this, that the openly corrupt judiciary can ignore, we must have strong anti-corruption legislation for the judiciary with civil and criminal penalties associated with that for judges who ignore the laws in the state of New Hampshire. Common sense. Compliance must be enforced through a non-judicial authority. And Judge Kelly, shame on you. You've known about this for over a year in this case. And you're in a position to do something about it and you don't. Shame on you.
Thank you.
So,
I know that.
oh, yes.
No, I know more than.
I'm just going to explain.
My husband Brad Schwarr. Our saga began in July of 2011. After my ex-husband remarried, he decided that I shouldn't have a relationship with our children whatsoever. We have 2 boys. We were under a parenting plan. It was nearly 50-50 parenting schedule for 8 years. And by his campaign for sole custody, began submitting false allegations to the court by ex parte. He quickly learned how powerful the ex parte is and gained very quick ground on that, which advanced to the point where I couldn't catch up. I started off with an attorney, but eventually was unable to afford an attorney. Ex partes were based on hearsay and what the court defines as offers of proof. It's more hearsay. And no matter what I submitted to the court that was real proof, was rejected. And a very difficult and long litigated parenting plan was easily undone by a guardian ad litem who never had one supportive fact in his recommendation to allow my oldest son to live where he wanted, to decide and to decide whether if or when he would ever see me again. He was granted that parenting plan to exercise, giving a 14-year-old boy the power to decide whether he was going to see his mother ever. On that success, the following summer, my children's father began to work on gaining full custody of our youngest son. Using different techniques that didn't work with the younger son, he employed another series of false allegations, again by ex parte filings, based on pure falsehood with his attorney, who, by any other definition, employed just pure barratry, because I was self-represented, and proceeded to systematically remove me from the life of my youngest son. I was ordered to pay guardian ad litem fees, which were not only $200 above the amount allowed by statute, but for which I was not under any contract whatsoever. Because this was guardian ad litem number 5, I chose to not employ another guardian ad litem, my right. And the court proceeded with the guardian ad litem in spite of my objection. In December of 2014. The guardian ad litem produced a report which stated that our oldest son could continue to live with his father if he chose, and our youngest son could also proceed with the equal choice of living primarily with me.
So, hey, Audra, do you have that all as written testimony that you can submit to us in
Sure.
short time?
Oh, sure.
That would be great.
Mhm.
And if there's just any last points you want to wrap up with, that would be great.
Okay. That was
It goes
3 minutes?
fast. It goes fast, doesn't it? But you have written testimony, so that's okay. So I don't know if you have any final comments that you want to leave us with.
No. My son has left school today to be here to testify himself, and he has chosen to escape the clutches of his own father. That's what the state of New Hampshire has forced a 14-year-old to do, to actually run away from home. And he's here today, and he's not going back. So you'll see him in just a little while. He's a really fine young man.
Is he your oldest son or youngest son?
He's my youngest son.
My name is Nicholas Aiello. I'm 14. I'm in the 9th grade. I've been taken away from my dad. He's taken me out of all my favorite things to do, like Boy Scouts, just because, well, really no reason. I only get to talk to my mother at 7 o'clock every other night, and that's only if he's available and if I'm available. If, let's say, he has something to do for work or something, then I'm not able to talk to my mother. And that's how it works. I haven't seen my mom in a long time. I've missed 2 Christmases, 2 Thanksgivings. And it just, I had a guardian ad litem. I saw him, he gave a report, the court ignored it, and I wasn't able to get what I wanted through that. I've been lied to by school, by police. They've also lied about certain things, and my dad has lied a lot to the court, and has gotten things through that shouldn't have. This whole situation has just made me sick. It's really ruined a lot of my life so far. I haven't been, like I said, I haven't been able to participate in a lot of things because of my dad, and I just wish for this all to be over. It's really destroyed my life so far. Thank you.
Thank you. How long has that taken place? When you say you're only 14.
Since I was 12.
12. Okay, great. Thank you.
So for 2 years?
For 2 years, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So do you have any visitation with your mother or just?
There's visitation, yes, but again, we haven't been doing that because we really don't get to talk. We don't. We are basically told what we can talk about, and that's only like how my day went, not how I feel about all this, what's been happening.
So you're the supervised visitation? Is that what it
Supervised,
is?
yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
supervised visitation, yes. So I haven't been able to talk to my mother the way I wanted to because of that.
Great. Thank you so much for giving you time and taking this.
Sure, okay.
Great, thank you.
I want to thank the committee and the justice. My name's David Logan-Clams, and when my lawyer threatened her with pursuing perjury charges, she retracted the statements and the restraining order was voided. After a few months later, we went to the family court for our divorce hearing before a judge. By this time, they'd run out of money and had to proceed pro se. 3 disabling conditions had rendered me unable to work at my trade. A left knee that had been bone on bone since 1982, a torn rotator cuff, and a chronic back condition. My ex had taken me off the family health insurance plan that I was paying for 6 months prior to our breakup, and the only medical verification I could afford was through my chiropractor. After the judge deemed me voluntarily underemployed, I pulled my pants tight around my knee to show the comparison between a very swollen left knee and my normal right one, and told the judge this knee has less than 100 yards on it this morning, to no avail. The judge still agreed with my ex that I was voluntarily and intentionally underemployed. My ex had spent us into financial oblivion. I presented receipts and credit card statements to verify her spending problem. And when I even asked the judge if your husband was the main breadwinner in your family, and he was in the construction business, which was very physical, and he was waking up in excruciating pain multiple times every night, would you be spending $850 on a bedspread and 3 curtains? And yes, I had the receipts. I had checking account statements and store receipts showing how she would use the family bill account debit card to purchase something, then she'd get cash back often to the tune of $1,000 plus per month. Every time I questioned my ex's multiple contradictory statements, the judge threatened me with contempt charges. When I tried to use her statements in the protective order to establish the fact that her word was less than good, with evidence in her own writing and signature, the judge chose to ignore it. In September of 2007, I was deemed disabled at my first Social Security hearing. I received approximately $8,500 in back benefits. My ex received roughly half that for the support of my daughter for the same time frame. Because of my inability to work, I had fallen behind on my child support by $1,200 over the period of time, and I had always paid some, but couldn't always keep up. My ex received the money I was able to pay, plus the back benefits from Social Security. The judge ordered me to pay the $1,200, a classic double dip. After she got my daughter's benefits and the $1,200, my ex and her boyfriend went on a 2-week vacation to the Rocky Mountains. In our divorce decree, my ex was ordered to maintain the health insurance on my daughter. She let it lapse. My daughter Emily had a heart condition that revealed that reared its ugly head while she was uninsured. She had to be seen by her cardiologist. The bills came to approximately $2,300. I filed for a hearing in family court, and the judge ruled I was liable for half of it, even after my ex admitted spending Emily's money on her own vacation to a point where she had to let the health insurance lapse. My ex and I agreed to shared custody. Half the week Emily was with me, half the week with my ex. I received none of the money from Social Security for her needs. In my case, I believe I was a victim of judicial discretion by a judge that had made up her mind well before hearing a word. Although I had apologized for not knowing litigation protocol several times, it was clear the judge wasn't happy with the fact I was doing this pro se. Or maybe she, like many judges, are pro-damsel in distress and anti-man. I'd also like to bring to light the disconnect between DCYF and the family court. My daughter was abused. My ex was reported to DCYF 7 times, twice by me, the other times by school, doctors, and a neighbor.
So David, are you able to leave your testimony with us since we're out of time?
Am I out of time?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Is that when you can get the rest of it?
Sure,
So that everybody gets a
I'm all-
copy.
yeah.
Are you all set? Okay, I was
Yeah.
trying to let you finish up there.
Yeah,
so-
okay. The disconnect between DCYFs. I even confronted Governor Lynch, former Governor Lynch, while at the Manchester fireworks, and I'm trying, I can screw this up, showing him knuckle marks on my daughter's spine. All he did was pass me on from aid to aid, and the DCYF workers mainly told me you're just an angry dad. And another thing they told me was that no hospitalization, no broken bones, there's nothing we can do about it. The enforcement of child abuse laws in New Hampshire leave a lot to be desired. The family unit's in deterioration, and society's paying a huge price. Our jails are full of broken children, now grown. The blame for this lies largely in the halls of this institution and the courts, but hopefully so does the solution, in the words of my friend Frank, and we wonder why we have a substance abuse problem in New Hampshire. I want to thank the Children and Families Committee and the justices for allowing me to be heard.
Thank you for coming in.
This opportunity to come before you, and thank you for your interest in even investigating this problem, because it is a very gross problem that's been around for a long time. I don't know exactly how to fix it. I do know from looking at court, the way the court behaves, there's a big disconnect in the court. Rarely is there one judge assigned to one case. In my case, I had many judges that looked it over. I tried to get a guardian ad litem involved. Mistakenly, I signed a contract with the guardian ad litem, so that became another ball game for the court to proceed with. And as best I can tell, There was never any continuity between my children and the guardian ad litem. The only time that he was interested in was getting ready to go on vacation, and he wanted to get some extra money. I do not believe that guardian ad litems that have religious affiliations within any states should be a part of the guardian ad litem system, because then they have a method to fund their churches. I mentioned the judges that constantly change, and there's no continuity. The one thing that they seem to all have continuity on is, are you paying child support? That appears to be a guilt relief mechanism solely for their benefit, because after that they have really no interest in the children. I complained many times to the educational problems that my kids were having, both to the court and the guardian ad litem system, no interest. I was advised by the Superior Court Center in New Hampshire to go to the guardian ad litem board. I composed a letter and hand-delivered it to the court, and I was berated under the idea that I was to have no contact whatsoever with the judge. And I explained that I was told by the told by the Superior Court Center to contact the person who was at that time the head of the board of the guardian ad litems. The guardian ad litem, in my opinion, was not qualified because the documents were not completed. The applications had not been completed at the time the judge appointed this person, and then proceeded about 9 months later before he even rendered any type of a decision. I find another complaint with the court system in that frequently the lawyers do not communicate with the judges in behalf of fathers. I'm not sure why this is. I don't know. A lot of times, and I still have gone over the court system, frequently they say nothing. They just let the opposing counsel make their case. Frequently I've seen that after the hearing proceedings were over and the judge is walking off the bench, the opposing counsel jumps up and says, "Hey, I forgot to give you this," hands him the paper, and the judge walks off. You have no opportunity to see what it was. You have no opportunity to redress the information that was presented to the judge. Along with that idea, I just don't think the court rules are being followed. The one thing that is concerning, and I may have already mentioned this, I'm not sure now, I've got it on my notes here twice. No matter what legislation is passed, there's still contained in the rules that the judge has broad powers in his child matters. So no matter what kind of legislation is passed, the judge can blanket out in one signature, and they generally do, in my opinion.
Do you have written testimony that you can hand in to us? Since our time is up, I don't know if you wanted to provide us with your notations or not.
No, they're just scribbled notes. You know. And I don't mention this in any demeaning way, but I know that in a few years back that one of the justices here in New Hampshire was attacked by one of his children, which is a tragedy. However, it could see that some of these problems exist from the top down.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I'll give you some time so you know where you are.
Sure. Thank you for hearing me today. I'm here to talk on behalf of my son and the system that doesn't seem to very do justice for us. I caught the judge contradicting testimony, medical records, psych evals. There's so many numerous things that happened in our case, and then the judge let my son move to North Carolina. No evidence was submitted against me at all. I got 7 years protective order. I just have so much overwhelming evidence of wrongdoing, and everywhere I turned, I got shut down. All I was fighting for was for 50-50 custody of my son, or our son, and I don't know, just seems like a dead end everywhere I go. And her attorney got caught lying. She testified against her attorney. She testified against the judge. you know, she got caught contradicting testimonies, and I got a 17-page parenting plan, extremely restrictive that I can't comply with. Everywhere I went, it didn't really matter. I just got turned down. So hopefully, I don't have any ideas how to fix it, how to fix the issue. I just know there's a lot of innocent kids that get stuck in the middle, and mine's one of them. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Thanks so much.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for hearing my input. I'd like to see the family courts. I'd like to have somebody speak for the children. I'd like to see an advocate for checks and balances, that when judges get inundated with all the information to prove an unfit parent, and I'm left with just a judgment that says you don't get the children in favor of the mother. I know a lot of people in DCYF are women. I know people can't conceive that a woman can possibly be a horrible mother. I just think that there has to be, when a judge renders this decision, if they would please have an advocate, somebody who goes over, when I present all the police records, the drug abuser coming to the house, the neglect of doctor's records, with police records where the mother's boyfriend tried to kill the children, tried to kill my son. When all this stuff is put in place, and all I get is a thing that says, you didn't win. You know, mental illness, it's all documented. She's got an extensive record. When a judge, because we're talking about children, I don't believe this is a win, nothing. Should be a win-loss between a father and a mother. I'm talking about children who are 3 and 4 who have no voice. The system needs a check and balance for children who are minors that says when a judge is done, somebody has to take a look at the data that came in and have the judge specifically say, I threw out the police record, I itemize it, that this was not relevant, not just a judgment. That I can come back and now say, okay, the judge saw this, I know they saw it, and it was dismissed. So I'm asking for a more extensive reasoning that the courts say that when someone fails my grandkids, I did everything I could, I went to court trying to get them. I'm asking that I have that the court said this is not relevant. She wins because she's the mother. And then if I want my grandchildren to know I didn't fail them, the courts failed them. That's what I'm asking, checks and balances for the data that came in. I'm not talking little pitty data, I'm talking arrest records, drugs, alcohol, abuse, DSS, extensive records. And here it is now, she's got the 2 children in the house, my son is out,
Not paying the fines that she's been
it goes on and on.
given.
I want somebody who, I'm not saying oversee what the judge is, but itemize it. Itemize that here's why, and have the judge put in the record, it was ignored. Acknowledge the data. That's what I'm asking, to give the kids who have no voice a voice. And I appreciate you, but I think it needs overhaul. And I'll be here when the next DCYF, when they go to overhaul that, I'll be here again, asking that someone look into that organization as well.
What you've been describing occurred in the context of a divorce between your son and his wife, is that?
Now that is,
Yeah.
but that only happened because I went and sought to get my grandchildren from both of them. They're both, you know, I've seen the drug dealers, I've seen it all. I've seen the abuse, the neglect, I've seen it. I lost in court, which I understand, I can live with it. But I want, my grandkids will know. My grandkids will know at 18 or whatever, their grandmother did what she could. I didn't just let it go. My son's going through a divorce now, and the judge, it's not family court, divorce, the judge, again, ignored everything. She's living in the house with the 2 kids, they're alternating weeks. So my son's stomach has to be in knots to know that my grandkids are gonna be safe for that week. Because the people coming in and out, she's got poor judgment. It's all over the news when her boyfriend is in jail now, was on their way to kill my grandchildren and my son. And then, now she's got a new boyfriend. Who knows? Probably in 3 months he'll be in jail.
But you still gave her custody.
But it needs to be checks and balances. The judge has to put in a report. This was presented, this didn't sway my decision. Her extensive record, her extensive drug addiction, did not weigh my decision. So people can say, hey, I lost, okay, fine, that's the process, I'll do. But I wanted it, their part to show they dismissed it all. That judge said, that didn't weigh my decision to hand those kids over to a neglectful, abusive mother. When my granddaughter had dangerously low iron, I took her to the doctor said to me, my God, what did you do in 2 months? We've never seen a kid go from dangerously low iron to almost normal. I said, I'm feeding her. I have the bottle. I showed the judge, I have the bottle of the iron that was prescribed by the doctor. She never opened it and gave it to her. I kept telling her, I'm there. I watched those children morning and night for 8 months while that mother lived downstairs and she wasn't feeding the children. So finally we took over, and then that's what, she decided she likes to be kept and, whatever. I do have a picture.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully checks and balances.
Do you have this question?
No, I understand. Thank you.
So checks and balances.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Ready? We go.
Yeah. My name's Timothy Sanborn. I'm a native of New Hampshire. Coincidentally born here in Concord. I've lived in Rye since 1986. I'm in my 10th year in the family court. And I believe that's due to the fact that the rules, specifically the Court Rule 2.23a that says all stipulations and agreements in a divorce shall be signed by the parties, was not followed. Court Rule 197, which says signed financial affidavits will be submitted within 30 days of a final divorce decree, were not followed. My final divorce was issued in December of 2009. I spent 2.5 years in appeals, after which my attorney at the time, when I asked him, I said, you told me that a divorce could never be finalized in New Hampshire without signatures. What am I supposed to do now? And he told me, you can file a legal malpractice case against us. He threw his hands up in the air. He said, it's the only time in his 60-year law career that he's ever said that. So I did that. That turned into a mistrial when my attorney had a mental breakdown and nothing to do with me, and the defendant died 2 weeks later, and they dismissed the case. After a near-death experience, I decided to just drop all this, and then my ex-wife filed in mid-last year to bring us back into the complex divorce court. I've worked with the legislature, testified 6 times to try to help improve the family court system. I thank Representative Itza for him filing a bill in my name regarding the failure of the administrative judge of the judicial branch of the family division during the period from 2007 to 2012 to adequately manage and train marital masters, specifically marital master Fishman, who incorporated recommendations by opposing counsel in an order that effectively denied health insurance to me by reversing a previous decision. Marital Master Philip Cross, who issued a divorce decree without the requisite signatures on the stipulation of the necessary financial affidavits, and further issued an order that I pay the legal fees of $94,278 to my ex-wife in a divorce which prohibited any reconsideration of that order or appeal to any court, including the New Hampshire Supreme Court. I have a copy of that order signed by Judge Susan Ashley on July 20th, 2012. And it specifically states, no further motion filed by Timothy Sanborn, including an appeal to any court, including the New Hampshire Supreme Court, shall serve as a basis to stay, delay, or otherwise interfere with the provisions regarding this order. Totally stripping me of my constitutional rights. This is my story. I see I'm out of time, but I thank you for listening to that much of it.
Do you want to submit that for us, or is that?
Do you have copies for us or some written testimony?
I have a lot of that, as Representative Itza will tell you. I provided copies to his committee when I originally testified about this. Chairman Ingertson said no judge in New Hampshire would ever sign that order, and I said, well, here it is, and they abruptly stopped the hearing and asked me for a copy of it, so I gave them a copy of it.
If you want to submit
I'm
something,
happy
to do that.
I'm happy to submit it. I also have a letter from Judge Ed Kelly forwarding me back to the family court to get my issues resolved, which is exactly what I did. I appreciated his advice, and then this is the final order that I got, basically denying me any further recourse. So I'm happy to
If you want to
submit that.
submit those, that'd be great.
Yeah, do you have a copy of
Well,
those?
You can get them
from Dan, though.
Okay.
If you can give them to Dan, he can get them to us.
Yep, no, I'm happy to
I
do
really
that.
appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
I'm Canon Mark Pearson. I was ordained 42 years ago into the ministry of the Episcopal Church. For a number of years, I've been Chief Executive Officer of a facility in Kingston, which offers family practice medicine and certified credentialed counseling with 2 practitioners. In anticipation of this meeting, I've had conversations with medical and counseling senior staff members from our facility having to do with the subject of families in crisis, divorce, and care of children. I've spoken with physicians and counselors from other organizations. I've also thought about similar experience I've had over the years as a priest. And it's our collective experience that in so many instances, officers of the court and people employed by them have done a good job in caring for the people in question here. They've been caring and compassionate. They've also been overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. All of us are aware, however, of instances where the system has not worked well. Among various concerns are stories of people where there seems to have been an automatic gender bias against either fathers in general, or I've heard a few stories about mothers in general. And while stories of these instances are comparatively less frequent, they are still too numerous to be dismissed as the mere accusations of somebody who's been ruled against and wishes to rant. I am personally knowledgeable of some cases like these difficult ones over the years, both here in New Hampshire and in other places in which I've served. My medical and counseling staff, all women, by the way, tell me of cases consistent with such seeming bias. I have found that it's periodically helpful to review how a system works. In part, this is to make sure that good work is appreciated, good systems are expanded, and the people involved rewarded. And in part, this is to find places where something is out of kilter for whatever reason, whether innocently or not so, and to find attempts to fix those problems. And it may be an appropriate time for a systems review here. Not just because we may be looking for problems to fix, but also that we may be able to give shout outs to those who've been doing a good job. In addition, such a review listens to and respects the concerns of those who do have issues with the system. And it says to those whose objections are way over the top that we have done our due diligence too. I try to do all of this in both the church I pastor and in the medical counseling facility I oversee. Thank you for listening to me.
We get time.
I've spoken before an audience before.
And what I'm saying to this court is, Judge Kelly, is that our system is corrupted. The house is burning down and we're talking about arranging furniture. That's what it is. The judges are corrupt. I just went to jail for 10 days. You know why I went to jail for? I had 2 sets of text messages that threatened to murder my children if I keep going forwards. Judge Francois wouldn't take them. And it spoke about the corruption in the courtroom by one of the lawyers that represented me. Right? So instead I do 10 days in jail. Don't smile. And so I have it on tape that after the hearing that you mentioned at family court, Mike, I'm working with Foley, to everybody in the panel, then you're telling me and sit right next to me right under the camera and go, listen, I know he's corrupt. Here's the problem with dealing with the corrupt. There's never a good result. Oh, is that 2 minutes, Frank? So in other words, this is our situation. You know I've got information from the committee that said it's corrupt. The GLA's corrupt. The judge is corrupt. That came from your own committee. We're not denying that, are we? Because I have it with me. Right. Where is the Title IV-D money? Anybody see it? We're motivated to take our children. I'm fighting corruption. I've had my life challenged on a couple of occasions. What are we doing? We've got to admit the problem. We're playing smoke and mirrors here. We're making it look good. Right? Shaheen, Ayotte, through the whole court system. Where are the judges? The JCC has an F federal rating. Why is that? Why is it that we're failing the people of the state? You know, we have a commonality out there. You know what it is? We all love our children. You know what my divorce cost? We didn't have any depositions to the last week in 5 years. $5.5 million. You know why? Because we had to get through statutes of limitations. Not one of those lawyers, not one of those judges said they were innocent. They got off from statutes of limitations because they put the divorce off for 5 years. How about this? I haven't seen my little girl in 10 years, from 12 to 22. This court knew my wife was a borderline personality disorder, destroyed the records. When my son, who was threatened, his challenge, was tried to have him murdered 3 different times by the wife, he went to the court-ordered therapist. That therapist said he should never see his mother again. You know what they did? Those records were destroyed. Tim Cunningham, the GLL, went up and said, he goes, oh, well, I don't believe the therapist. Then why did we send him to the therapist? Again, it was about money. I was a wealthy man. You tell me how you spend $5 million on a divorce. Right? The problem with this state is that it's corrupt. And it's corrupt to its core. And if we don't confront this corruption, it won't end. This is smoke and mirrors. And if you want to get elected, which is what you told me, because you can't deal with the corruption now, well, it's dishonest. And when you have a chairman that sits on the family court committee who has family services, who the money from Title IV-D goes into their pockets, think about that. And why don't we know where the Title IV-D money is? Who's getting it? Now, I have information that came from the committee that says the GLAs are corrupt.
Mike, thank you for coming in, and thank you for testimony.